us this morning. I don't think we had anyone to reach out for public comment on any of our action items today, so we will move to the next agenda item, which will be consideration of approval of the minutes from the October 17th meeting. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review those. Motion for approval. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any corrections or additions? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay, and the minutes are approved. Now we will hear from our Executive Director, Monica Faulknerson, will give us her report.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here. You have the agenda in front of you. This is a really straight to the point agenda, mostly reports. So you're going to hear from the Finance Committee. There is an action and a recommendation that is coming to you from the committee, which met earlier this morning, and that is consideration of a resolution that essentially amends the trust indenture and also the lease agreement for Geodis Park. So you'll hear more about that in the committee. And then we will hear from our stadium, our construction representatives. We'll hear from the Titans as usual. And then after facility questions, we'll hear from First Horizon Park. So we appreciate them hosting us today. I really, surprisingly, don't have much else to say this morning. There are a number of things that we're working on with staff that we'll be bringing back to you in January and February. So more on those at that time. But we are busy, and there are a lot of things that are going on. We also, as a city, we're gearing up for budget season. So that will be something that you'll be hearing about. And, of course, we'll be bringing to the Finance Committee probably in February. There have been conversations, as you know, about building security. We're getting a lot of requests for use of the venue, so we're looking at developing a policy related to that too. But all of those things will come back to you in the coming months. I think everyone around the table hopefully has been able to use the QR code to make sure that your parking is validated. If you have not, then please make sure that Brandon gets your license plate number so we can help if there are any questions there. And then lastly, you all should have received an email from me related to the new legislation that the council passed about attendance requirements. So if you have any questions about that, we can talk about that. I would say, and I said this in the email, that the Sports Authority's governance documents really set the threshold for being in good standing as a 70% attendance requirement. VALDA tracks those, so if you have questions about where you are, then please reach out to VALDA. But we really appreciate your commitment to the board. We ask a lot out of you. This is, I don't know what you thought you signed up for when you agreed to do this, but there's a lot that we need to do, and it's important work, and so we appreciate your consistency and your commitment.
Okay, thank you, Monica.
Any questions? That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Monica's report? If not, I'll just echo that we really do appreciate the time and the commitment that goes into serving on this board, and you directors do it very well, so it's much appreciated. With that, we will move to our next agenda item, which is a report from our Finance Committee Chair, Dan Hogan. The committee met this morning.
We did. Dan. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee met at 9:30 this morning and approved the minutes from September 12th. We additionally heard from Lauren Riley with Metro Internal Audit. They have contracted with Kraft CPAs to audit the Nissan Stadium construction project, and we will be regularly updated on that. More information to follow. We also considered a resolution approving an amendment to the trust indenture and the amendment to the lease agreement for Geodis Park. Josh with Metro Legal, can you walk the board through what we've recommended?
Sure. So behind tabs 3 in both the Finance Committee section of your binders and the Sports Authority in the full board section of your binders, you will find memos from myself and also from Bassberry and Sims that served as bond counsel on the deal for the bonds for Geodis Park. And also I'll mention that Bria Smith-Edwards from Bassbury Sims is here as well to answer any questions that you may have from the bond perspective. But as way of background, back in 2020, this board issued $225 million in its revenue bonds to pay for construction-related costs at Geodis Park. Those bonds are for 30 years, and payment is usually made or is made twice a year. And the primary source of repayment for those bonds are certain taxes. It's sales tax on goods, services, and tickets that are sold at the stadium campus, sales tax on NSC gear that is sold within the county, and a ticket tax on events that are held at the stadium. And those revenues are the primary source of repayment for the bonds. The deal that was negotiated by the Mayor Cooper administration also provided for that if those revenues are not enough to make an applicable bond payment, the team has agreed to step in and pay the difference or the deficiency. And the lease agreement, that is referred to as rent. And so for the first time, the team was required to pay rent for the 8-1 bond payment. And during this time, both Metro and the team discovered there was a bit of a timing issue based on language in the lease agreement. And I'll try to walk you through it. Maybe a little bit confusing as far as the timeline without a visual, but essentially using 8-1 as the example, under the lease agreement, if rent is going to be required from the team, 20 days before that, they must make a payment of that rent. And the amount of the rent is to be calculated 90 days before that 20 day before bond payment date. So essentially 110 days before the bond payment is due, Metro will calculate the amount of rent that is owed, which essentially is the amount of the bond payment that has to be made minus the revenues that are on hand as of that date. And then 30 days after that calculation is made, Metro sends an invoice to the team saying this is how much you have to pay. The problem that creates, though, is that these revenues, these tax revenues, they come in monthly from the state. State gives it to Metro, and then Metro turns it over to the bond trustee. And so there are going to be a period of about 2 months that there would be additional revenues that have come in, and the team would not get credit for that when they make their when they make their rent payment. And so what we have done is we have modified the language in both the lease agreement and in the trust indenture, which is related to the bonds, to make that to correct that issue. And so currently, the way it works, as I mentioned, is 90 days before the rent payment date, there's going to be a calculation of the amount of rent due. Under the amendment to the lease agreement, that's now going to be changed to we calculate the amount of rent that is due in the month that the rent payment is due. So using 8-1 as an example, in July, we will now calculate when the rent is due, the amount of the rent, as opposed to under the current lease agreement, which was in April. So now they get the credit for those additional months. The lease agreement amendment also changes when the rent payment is due. As I mentioned earlier, currently it's 20 days before the bond payment. Now it's going to be changed to 5 days before the bond payment. And then the last thing that the amendment does is it allows the sports authority to refund to the team any amount of an overpayment if for some reason the team has overpaid based on our calculations. Under the current agreement, that is unallowed. The second agreement, which is the trust indenture, is basically the government that guides the trustee who's responsible for the safekeeping of the funds and making sure that the bond money is available for the bond holders. And under the current agreement, if there is an overpayment and the money has been turned over to the trustee currently lacked authority to be able to refund that money back to the sports authority, so we could then refund that money back to the team. And so this amendment or supplement, to the trust indenture now allows and gives the bond trustee the authority to make a refund if the circumstances so require. So as I mentioned, Bond Counsel has been involved in this. They helped Metro Legal in the preparation of the two amendments that are before you. We believe this to be consistent with what the parties intended when they initially negotiated the agreement. So it would be our recommendation for approval, but happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I have one clarification question. We talked about it in committee. This resolution does minimize then that gap, but do you anticipate that there will always be sort of a true-up reimbursement annually just by virtue of the nature of that gap that we can't completely eliminate?
There possibly would be, and I think the example that I used during the Finance Committee meeting is, let's imagine we're in year 30. It's the last bond payment that's being made, and let's just say, for example, that bond payment is going to be the 8-1 bond payment. Right now, we would calculate the amount of rent based on the amount of ticket taxes and other taxes on hand as of April. But funds will continue to come in between April and when that August 1 payment is going to be made. And then the other asterisk to that is that the state usually turns those funds over to Metro on a 2-month lag. So there would be 6 months of revenues that would have come in that would not have been accounted for when we came up with the rent amount. And so this change would basically allow us to refund any additional amounts that the team overpaid based on those additional revenues that came in.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going back to the questions asked in Finance Committee. I just wanted to get it on the record in the board meeting. And it's not really specific to the lease agreement, more general around how the stadium's funded. And you mentioned revenue bonds. And just to speak specifically to how they are funded, the debt on revenue bonds is paid out of revenue sources at the campus and the stadium, including tickets that you previously referred to. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And aside from those who use the revenue sources, no other Davidson County taxpayer pays money to fund this stadium. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the city agreed to backstop a certain amount each year if the revenue sources fell short of projections, i.e. not enough ticket sales or something of that nature. But my understanding is to date, those revenue sources have been plenty sufficient enough to cover the debt. Is that correct?
That is correct. And if I could just add one thing. So the order would be first the ticket taxes, then the team would kick in the money. If for some reason the team's not able to do it, that is only when Metro would have to kick in for the backstop. And so that has not happened to
It
date.
has not happened to date, in spite of the fact that we've had some challenges since the stadium has been in built
That's
building
correct.
process. So aside from those who use the facility, those who use the campus, Davidson County taxpayers who don't have anything to do with that are not on the hook for funding this stadium. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Additional questions?
I would just add, Josh has referenced the 8-1 date quite a bit, but there's a second bond payment, which is February 1st. And so we are getting ready now the timing is important in doing this now so that we can implement this and get ready to calculate the new rent. I guess that'd be January 1st.
Correct.
Great. Okay, yes.
I'm just curious to know who does the calculations? What type of variables would come into play for a calculation to be off in order for a kickback to be given?
I will answer the first part of your question. It's going to be the Metro Department of Finance. As to your second part, I may look to someone. I don't know if they're still in the audience. No one wants to come forward. I think, and I guess I'll say this, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. But essentially, they'll look at the amount of revenues that the state has turned over as of that date. The bond payment has a schedule and amount that is already owed, so we already know that number. And so they'll look to see how much money we receive from the applicable revenues, and based on what's in there, they'll be able to calculate the amount of rent payment that is due. Is that correct?
Yes, so every month we send our rent payment, or what we get from
Excuse me,
sales tax.
if you don't mind, would you just give us your name and
Oh,
your
I'm
role?
Jennifer Paczynski, I'm the chief accountant for Metro.
Thank you.
So every month we get our sales tax from the state, and we will, 5 days later, we'll pay it to the trustee, which is Regions. Regions will give us how much is in the account will be July or January, and then we will see how much the debt payment is needed, and then that will be, the difference will be the rent. So.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'm not sure, maybe Monica or the team or Josh, perhaps. When is the capital fund I think it was year 5 or I can't remember now. There's a fund that's set up to start saving in case we need to make improvements, which I can't even believe we're thinking about that at this point, but time flies. When does that start funding itself? Was it year 5 or something generally? Does anyone?
Yeah, we can check. We can check. We can check. I believe it's year 5. It could be 7, but we'll check. Let you know.
It'll be here before we know it.
It will,
So.
yes. Yes.
Any other questions? If not, thank you so much.
Madam Chair, that the Finance Committee recommends approval of the resolution, and I would move adoption.
Okay, is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of moving forward with the recommendation from our finance team, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. And the motion passes. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Great. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Cummings Group, our construction representative. I think Heather Hill is out today, so we have David Aronoff. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did, Kathy. Thank you. Yes, for those that don't know me, my name is David Aronoff. I'm a senior project manager with the Cummings Group. As Kathy mentioned, Heather is on PTO today, so you guys are stuck with me to go through the report. Starting with the design items you should have in your binder. The MOU items are continuing to progress per the GMP agreement, and we're working to a conclusion on all those items. Just wanted to focus on 2 of the items. The first one is the South Plaza. We met with Metro Planning and East Bank, as well as the Titans and Hawkins yesterday to review some of the landscape designs, and we're going to be able to provide feedback to them on those items and have those be incorporated into the drawings, as well as the South 2nd Street design. Those drawings were issued in November, and Metro Water, East Bank, and Planning are currently reviewing those drawings to provide comments back to the design team to get those drawings out at the beginning of April for their 90% set as expected. For design comments specifically on the stadium, those continue to progress. We currently work directly with Titans and TVS to close out any remaining open items on our design logs and get those incorporated into the drawings. Just to note for the board, our plan for January's board meeting is to recommend approval of the 100% construction document set that was issued at the end of August for approval. We plan on providing you all a link to those drawings so you have the opportunity to review them as well prior to that meeting, so you have the opportunity to ask any questions or comments that you may have within those drawings as well. Moving into financials, we last met in mid-October. Since then, we've had 2 successful fundings in October and November. Those have both gone according to plan, and those funding processes have met the contractual dates that are set up in the agreement. From our end, the process that we have in place seems to be working well and making sure that any comments or concerns that anybody that has in those pay applications are addressed prior to the funding date. On that note, the pay applications continue to be solely funded by Metro and state funds until they meet their catch-up amounts, and that's when the Titans will rejoin the payments for the pay applications for the remaining of the project. And since we're in December, we've started the December funding process as well. We met with TBA this past week with the bank inspector to review our comments to their pay application, and we're moving forward through the steps in the funding process. In the recommendations of awards, those continue to progress as well as scheduled. A couple of notes in the log that's in the report. There are 3 different ROAs that are listed as comments submitted that have actually been executed since this report has been issued. And those are the steel stairs, millwork and casework, and acoustical and manufactured ceilings ROAs. To note, we're roughly 85% bought out on TBA's scope of work. And our goal is by the end of the year to have a majority, if not all of the remaining ROAs completed and submitted to get as close to 100% bought out with TBA by the end of the year. From a DBE perspective, You'll have an update from the Titans after me. It'll be more in depth, but from our perspective, this continues to progress as forecasted, and we're working to keep B2G now as current as possible. The Titans will go into their outreach events and their presentation right after me, but from a reporting perspective, we're working with the state to understand what their requirements are for reporting DBE and making sure that they line up with Metro so that when the state reports DBE and we report DBE, that they match and there aren't any discrepancies between the two. And then finally with construction, similar to what I just mentioned about DBE, you'll get a lot more pictures as opposed to bulleted points that you have in your report on progress that have been made over the past month and a half. But the main activities that are occurring on site are related to concrete, underground, utility installation, and waterproofing. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you. I just want to clarify, you said that 100% of approval from this body will be at the January meeting?
Correct. Our plan is to be in a position to recommend approval of the 100% construction document set. That set got issued at the end of August of this year. We previously approved the GMP set. That's the last drawing set that's been officially approved by this board.
Great. Yes, Monica.
Does that differ from the permit set? What is at the last meeting you mentioned that there's a permit set and that would also be coming back?
Yes, those are the same. If not, they are reconciled between the two. So whatever's in the 100% construction document set would also be the same as the permit set.
Okay, so it's one
Yes.
action that will come back to the board probably in January.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, David.
Thanks.
We'll tell Heather you did a great job.
I appreciate that.
At this time, we'll recognize Adolfo Birch and Shannon Mize with the Tennessee Nissan Stadium Titans report.
Thank you, as always. Yes, we have a
Clearly, that's not
larger
Shannon
group.
Mize.
Yes, Shannon is. With your permission, well, first of all, let me say thank you again, as always, for allowing us the opportunity to give you an update on the stadium and its progress. But I think for this session, we wanted to kind of continue the same approach that we had in the prior one or two presentations and sort of really think about it in different blocks. So joining me today is Kellen DeCourcy, who you already are aware of, but also Steve Laurela from TBA, who will be filling in for John Gromos to really talk about workforce and safety. And I will say for the record that Mr. Gromos it's a load management issue and not an injury. So we expect him back in the lineup at some point. So I think, what we want to try to cover today is a look at the construction, sort of to update you on the progress of the construction itself, to look at our DBE participation and outreach, and then to cover off on workforce, some of the data and stats associated with that, as well as the safety reports. We have tried to sprinkle in the middle of those, though, in addition to the sort of raw numbers and data, some really more humanized in particular stories of folks that this participation affects. And so we'll kind of tell you when they're coming, but we also wanted to include that because we thought it was important to not only discuss sort of the abstract data, but also to really kind of show you how some of this is impacting people and businesses in this area. So with that said, with the permission of our chair, I'd like to first turn it over to Kellen to kind of give us an update on the construction end.
All right, good morning, board. We are going to change it up a little bit this month. It's been an exciting month of construction, but we are going to hopefully take you on a nice aerial journey around the stadium.
Which way?
Or
am I
maybe
pointing?
someone else can hit the button. Okay, here we go. All right, and I'll just narrate this as it flies through, just to talk you through what's going on. As you can see here, we're flying right through between the old Nissan Stadium and new Nissan Stadium. So we're flying on the west side of the new Nissan Stadium, and we are starting to take a look at what will be the future 2nd Street. We've been doing a lot of work with the city to coordinate that. It's going to be a great pedestrian experience on game days. Again, the construction activities, as you heard, has been really focused on the concrete superstructure. What you're going to see here is actually one of our major milestone, one of our first slab on grade pours for the event level. And that is a critical step and milestone for the project, because this really helps set the stage for the interior build out of the building. From here, with the slab on grade poured, we can start to install suspended mechanical, electrical, plumbing work, and then also ultimately the framing. And then we are going to wrap around here on the northwest corner of the stadium. And this will ultimately serve as one of our major entry points for fans on game days. And we're going to fly up over here around on the north side of the stadium. You're starting to see the concrete deck work that is taking place to form the lid of the below grade parking garage, which is about 175 spaces. And then we are flying here along the north sideline of the stadium. This is also the Titans home team sideline. And you are going to be seeing the concrete deck placement and finishing up here on our suite level. This is a suite level that sits right above the main concourse level. And then as you will zoom out here a little bit more, you can really start to see the seating bowl come to shape and the full 360-degree connection that we're working towards. We are almost complete with our mezzanine slab all the way through the east side of the stadium. So it's quite impressive. As I mentioned, we're racing through the concrete to get to the start of steel, which we should start to see in about 2 months. We'll be previewing that. And then ultimately, wanted to share a cool fact about the concrete we haven't talked about in the past is we are using kind of a new mix design. It's called a low impact concrete mix, where we're using recycled materials to help reduce the carbon footprint of our project, and ultimately it helps the sustainability and also presents sometimes stronger concrete as well. Any questions on construction?
I have a question, if that's okay. Kellen, what's the distance between the old Nissan Stadium and the new stadium?
It is
What are you
approximately 95 feet from the west.
Too short.
And, yeah, 95 feet from the west entry gate to our east entry gate of existing Nissan.
Well, first of all, you definitely brought the theatrics with the video. Thanks for showing that. And I did have a question just based on that distance. Are you the person that can answer or bring us clarity on, I'm getting ahead, but even demolition of the old stadium in terms of like how when that stadium comes down, like what are the type of measures that be in place to make sure, like, give us the peace of mind that the new stadium won't be disrupted foundationally?
Yes. Yeah, we are working on that plan currently with the demolition contractor, so we are getting prepared. We've actually got 2.5 years to plan for that, so that's great. And we are making sure that we have safe distances, but we are actually, we aren't going to be imploding the stadium. It's actually going to be mechanically brought down, so we will have the proper safety and distances set up.
Other questions or comments?
Every day I probably pass it at least 4 or 5 times, and most of the people that I do, they are very enthused by our progress right now. But the part about the demolition seems to be a question that they have also. So if there's anything that the neighbors could worry about or think about up to this point, I'd appreciate if you would just make them feel better.
Sure, we'll continue to update.
Great.
Awesome. Okay. Again, one of what we think is equally important to the status of the construction itself is our kind of efforts to ensure that this project has the amount and degree of participation both on a entity level and a workforce level as is possible to help this project realize the dream that all of us had, which is that it would be transformative for this entire area and region. So with that said, on the DBE side, just to refresh, our goal is 25%. I can report again this month that we feel highly confident that we will meet or exceed that goal. But I wanted to drill down and give you some data on in two different ways. First is in looking at the payments that have actually been made. So we know that is what we call in the can. And for that, we are currently, if you can look to your left of the chart, you will see that our payments to DBEs to date, well, not to date, I guess, as of November 10 was $14,371,000 and change. And that represents 41 particular firms, and you can see the breakdowns that are there. The second way that we want to look at it is through projection. And this is a way that looks at the recommendations of award that have been issued and looks at what that participation will be should that ROA, should those scopes come through as we expect them to. So with that, that's more of a forward-looking thing because we haven't actually done the work and paid the firms, but we do think it is a very good indicator of where we expect to go. So if you can look at that, you will see that we are currently coming in at roughly a 31% clip, and we think that is, good. We, again, the ebbs and flows of how construction works, we would expect that number to move both ways over the remainder of the project, but we think it is an excellent indication of where we expect to go in the coming months and year. So if you can see if there are any questions about sort of the categories, but the information is available and we're updating it monthly in advance of our reports that you are getting. Chair?
I'd like to just make a statement. If we could go back one slide, and I do commend you all for the effort and for the clarity and for really breaking these numbers down. I will just point out a point of concern for me would be that MBE continues to be the smallest payments received, but it's also the largest number of payments go to this particular sector. And so to me, that's the bottom line. That's where the rubber meets the road, and participation at that level is more concerning to me.
I think it's certainly valid, and I think a little later I'll be talking about some of the outreach efforts and other things we're doing to help improve those numbers and others.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the projections? Then at this point, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to also put some sort of faces to some of this work. And in this instance, we are stepping up in our initial effort to highlight Joseph Cole of Culture, Architecture, and Design. I heard Joe is actually here. Oh, there he goes. Okay. But if you would indulge us for a minute, we have a video that kind of talks about Joe's work on the project and some of the impact that it's had with respect to him.
Hello, I'm Joseph Cole, CEO and founder of Culture, Architecture, and Design. We're a full-service architecture and interior design firm based right here in Nashville, Tennessee. On the new stadium, we're coordinating the design of the press box, the ticketing office, the employee entrance, the media broadcast room, and the employee briefing space. This building is going to create so many more memories for the Tennessee fans. We're excited at Culture to be a part of this new chapter, this chapter 2 with the stadium, and we're excited to see the positive changes that this new stadium will have on our city.
And I think one thing that may not have been mentioned in that was that as I have recently heard, I think Culture is growing. Is that correct? So in addition to being able to work on the project, it has provided opportunities to even expand and increase the business reach and capabilities of that organization. So that, to us, is just one of many examples of why we try and why we want to be successful on the DBE end. And hopefully we will be able to bring you similar stories like that every month to sort of supplement everybody's understanding. Yes, sir.
Hey, Dolph, how many days in are we with the construction since we started?
Ooh, March 1 to...
We're at 9 months. I don't have the total number of days. I will get back to you on that.
That'd be an interesting stat to keep up with at each one of our board meetings, how many days we're in, because that's a heck of a lot of progress that we've made since day one, in my opinion. So.
Look, and to look at what you just saw in that video and think that started March 1, that is certainly a feat. It will be, and it will continue to be featured. I'm digressing, but as I told somebody, it's simultaneously seeming like it's taking forever, but also seeming like it's going at lightning speed. And I don't know how to describe it for other people, but that's how we sort of view it. Okay, so we also wanted to talk a little bit about outreach. And so just to kind of update you generally, we have 3 events that are scheduled for this month. One is a TBA event that's more for the primes to kind of meet and greet and talk to others, and you see the particular scopes that are covered on that. On the 19th, we have a number of things that are going on, or two to be specific. One is a Titans Direct Purchase outreach event that's going to cover the scopes that TDP is responsible for, and those, as you can see, are the 2nd Avenue graphics and signage, particularly naming rights, the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, yes. And then demolition, as I guess was discussed earlier, that will be addressed during that outreach event. That's going to be a virtual event. After we follow that with the East Bank group on the sewer pump station update with Garney, I also want to kind of say that we have, from an outreach promotion standpoint, been very vigilant about trying to get as many people to know about and be able to participate in this outreach event as possible. As some examples, I think we've talked about some of them before, but we have now more than 750 firms that have registered as interested in the project through our websites. We are also getting the assistance of BAO, the Business Assistance Office, to send it to all that are included on its database. We have recently begun to work with the state to have them send it to everybody on the GoDBE database. We have sent it to the area chambers, and whether that's the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the National Black Chamber of Commerce. We've forwarded it to the Urban League of Middle Tennessee in efforts to really try to expand that reach as much as possible. We're even, frankly, considering some additional measures that we think may be helpful, which would be things like media inserts for neighborhood newsletters, maybe some targeted flyer drops at places that have a community bulletin board type, feature at their restaurants or whatever. But we're really going to be continue to be diligent in trying to get the most out of that as we can. So we're hopeful that it will be all will be very well attended. We'll move forward. We have others that will be planned in the Q1 of 25, but these are the ones that are upcoming.
Just a quick question. Do you all do any advertising in some of the local, more community-based newspapers?
Well, I think that goes exactly to the question we're knocking around now, which is to try to understand whether, an insert in La Noticias or Tribune or something like that might also generate additional interest. And I think, we're certainly open to it, and we're going to do it if it makes sense.
Okay. Good.
Okay. If no additional questions on the outreach, then I think we'll turn it over to Steve to walk us through the workforce.
Good morning. Steve Lorola, Project Executive for TBA. Been on the job for 3 months now, so great to be here. You will see John hopefully next month. So these are October numbers, just over 500,000 hours as of October, but as of Monday this week, we're approaching 570,000 trade hours worked on site. Workforce on site currently is approximately 650 tradespeople on average. Just an event to note coming up in December, or this month in December, on December 20th, we're forecasting to be over or hit 700,000 trade hours on site. So there's a luncheon planned, thanks to the Titans, in the East Concourse to celebrate that. We'll bring in food, have all the trade workers attend that. Did a similar event in October for Construction Inclusion Week. So a lot of great things with progress and the hours to go with it. You see the breakdown between minority, female, and promise zone as well. Any questions?
Do you mind reminding us what the promise zone category entails, please?
I'd have to, I think it's zip code related, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's an indicator that helps to understand the composition, particularly local workforce that's able to participate. It's consistent with how we want to look at both DBE and workforce to understand the impact in this immediate area. So it basically runs it by a selected number of zip codes to kind of approximate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Workforce development, continue to have the TC2 courses and graduates. I don't have, I'm not directly involved with this, quite frankly, being on the project for 3 months, but we've had some graduates from the program here. I think we have a video of one of those persons here coming up, Alyssa Brock, who came out of that. I think that video is next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess just to catch everybody up there, on the TC2, that is the sort of umbrella training program that has been established by the TBA group and that the Titans certainly are supporting. And it's designed to provide real-time training that will result in certification under various of the federal and state certifications, so that those folks are able to immediately begin to work. They are given interviews. They are ultimately assigned or selected by one of our partners or Turner or whatever to work in various aspects, or some choose to continue on with their sort of education and apply for things like apprenticeships or other programming opportunities that give them more in-depth learning. So that program, we've had 4 cohorts. It has been amazing, and the one you're about to see is just an example of the ways in which this program has provided opportunities that are changing these families, changing these people's trajectories, and demonstrating how a project such as this can be something that's transformational to everyone. Yes.
Thank you. On the apprentice program, I commend the work of the Titans are doing, but how are you also tapping into existing apprenticeship programs that are in the region? Certainly, we know this is a huge project, and it's going to take all hands on deck.
Well,
So
I can speak to that a little bit. So, coming on board, one thing I was going to say is as new trade partners come on board, part of our startup meeting is we introduce them to this program. You know, the folks that are coming into it, and so that they can tap into the program to hire tradespeople. But to your point on apprenticeship, whether union or non-union, some of this stuff comes up with the union contractors that come to the site. So knowing that they're union, what they'll do, or in the meetings I've been, they'll potentially or will bring, like for iron workers, for example, when steel starts, or we have the electricians on board, look to see that they can take some of these people who are interested in those trades and bring them into the union program. So that's been talked about, and that is happening.
Yeah. And even more broadly, I guess, one of the things in the sort of ecosystem of how the program works is a lot of coordination with other entities, such as a Project Return or, other groups that are somewhat involved in the same idea. So that the point is to really just provide the greatest level of access, to provide support services that will assist people who maybe aren't able to complete the program at the time. And through this TC2 program, all of those connections are being made, and the groups are working together to try to increase the overall pool as much as they can. So this is Alyssa, I believe.
Yes.
Let's see.
My name is Alyssa Brock, and I was in the first cohort of the TC2 training. Before I came into this program, I was in and out of prisons and jails, and I was homeless. And when I got out of prison, the halfway house that I went to, they got me in touch with the Titans and the Tennessee Builders Alliance to get me into the TC2 training program. And I really think that it probably saved my life. It helped me stay sober, it gave me a job, and the Titans and everybody that's been in my path and walked with me on this journey has something to do with that. It's amazing to see the things that we work so hard for are becoming a structure, and I just love the fact that I'm a part of building the stadium. This whole opportunity is a blessing.
And if you haven't, I think we may extend invitations to the next graduation of the cohorts, because if you could actually be there and see the impact that graduation and going through that program has for those folks and their families, it is really something to be, a privilege to witness. So we'll try to do that for the next one.
Yeah, actually, I'm not saying I met her, but I attended a 6:30 morning. We have daily safety meetings, and I attended the Jones brothers grading one about a month ago, and she was there. Now that I think about it, so that's great.
Adolfo, if you could invite the board, I think we would all enjoy the opportunity, as long as it is not at 6:30 in the morning.
It'll be at 5:30.
5:30, exactly. You know what I'm going to ask, because I ask it every time, but the number of workers on site has increased dramatically, hours on site. What's the safety record looking like? And I knew you were ready.
We are ready. I guess, did you mention?
Well, I'll touch on this real quick here. I know Steve touched on it a little bit, but also wanted to note that in the month of October, we celebrated Construction Inclusion Week. It's an exciting week that the construction industry across the country celebrates inclusion in the industry. We celebrated on the second week of October. We kicked it off with a luncheon where we fed 700 workers and we raffled off construction equipment and safety gear. And it's a great time for the workforce to get together. There's daily events to help celebrate the diversity and different backgrounds of what makes the construction industry so unique and strong. Mm-hmm. And we'll do it again next year.
It's a really good event. Really good event. Okay.
Okay, safety update. Going back to October, since this meeting, I guess, is for that time period. So regrettably, one recordable in October. A trade person was removing the formwork for the elevated concrete. Some plywood came loose, knocked him off balance. He fell, fractured his fingers, if I recall correctly. So good news is no recordables in the month of November. October, we had 12 or 13 first aid incidents. November, we've had 16. Obviously, we strive to have no incidents. Believe they're all preventable. One thing to point out, and Mr. Gromos may have said this previously, but we have an on-site first aid. We have an on-site clinic. So we encourage the trade workers for anything that they have going on site to visit that. So that could be a scratch, a cut, or if it's something more serious. But the first aid incidents in November are like twisted ankles, strained back, things like that. So we've added another safety manager on site this month to help with the oversight. A lot of these incidents have been with the concrete subcontractor, who has added, since September up to this month, 20 between safety professionals and additional foremen to oversee the work. So we see an improvement, obviously without any recordables in November. But we believe every injury is preventable, and we continue to strive to achieve that and not have any more recordables here. But we have 2.5 or just over 2 years left to go.
So, if you don't mind, as I recall, that of the 4 recordables, there have been a couple of 3 broken fingers. I mean, I think any injury is serious, obviously, but these are relatively small injuries. Is there a categorization? I see that obviously there's recordable or it's not recordable, but is there small, medium, large? I mean,
I'd call them nothing small.
Right.
Nothing small. They're all serious in our eyes, but I can go through them. One was somebody fell in an elevated deck and smashed their leg. Was a laceration. Had to get stitches, so it was a lost time, but was back to work probably the next day or 2 days. The second was a gentleman was cutting something and just wasn't thinking what he was doing, and it hit his leg, the blade. But same thing, he was back within 1 to 2 days. Mentioned the fractured finger, same, back in 1 to 2 days. The other one was kind of particular because I shouldn't laugh, but they were tying rebar, the bar that goes in the concrete, and 2 of them working close together, and the pliers slipped that were to tie the rebar, sorry to get into detail, and it hit the other gentleman in the tooth. So he lost his tooth, regrettably. So that one is, out of all of them, is unique. But that's been the incidents. They've just been just some one-off things where, they were off time for a long time and back to work usually within a couple days.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, Dan, is as far as measurables and what is small, medium, large is really about the lost time. We're trying to have those folks get back to work. And as Steve mentioned, they're relatively minor, so they've been getting back to work within a couple days.
I appreciate that you guys put a lot of attention on this. For the purposes of this group, it's important to us as well. So thank you for reporting on it every time. It is something we will want to keep
Absolutely.
our thumb on.
And I think we will continue. We actually were having some discussion about the best way to present the information that gives you exactly what you want to see. And we'll continue to have that discussion because I do think there probably are either other metrics or additional metrics or something that sort of cuts to exactly what we all want to see on a running basis that makes the most sense to the authority. So we'll work on that, and hopefully we'll see something a little more improved maybe next time.
I won't make you describe them every time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
And I think that will do it for us, unless there are any questions.
Okay. Questions? If not, I'll just say congratulations on moving the project forward. It's hard to believe it's only been 9 months, and love the cohorts and the programs that are really working to change lives one person at a time. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So at this point on our agenda, this is the time that we set aside for questions to our facility partners. Those who are not presenting today, any questions or comments around our partners? Venues, facilities?
I just have a comment, maybe a request in the future for Geodis Park. I know they're doing more events there, and kind of how Bridgestone gives us a rolling list of upcoming concerts and what's in the lineup. That'd be helpful just to know what we've got. Trust me, I already have several, but no, I think it's always good to see all the activity because there is much more than just soccer. I know they're doing more and more, and that's important. So thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you. Last but not least, we will hear from Adam English, the General Manager of the Nashville Sounds. He will kick us off today. We thank you so much again for hosting us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for being here. It's always great to host this group. Hope you guys had a nice Thanksgiving and are having a happy holiday season as well. We're excited to recap. See if this works. Recap our 2024 season. We're also excited to host this again in February where we can kind of preview our 25 season. First and foremost, I'll talk a little bit about the baseball on the field. We had a very strong team on the field again this year, although we didn't make the playoffs. The way playoffs work in our league is there's 20 teams and 2 make the playoffs. We don't play all 20 either. So we were like 3.5 games back in the second half with about 20 games to play. We didn't play any of the teams that were ahead of us. It's hard to make up ground. Yeah. But we were one of 3 teams in the International League to have a winning record in the first and second half of the season. For the first time in the 46-year history of the Sounds, we had a player hit 20 home runs and steal 40 bases. And for the third time in the International League, we had a pitcher win the Triple Crown, Chad Patrick, and Brewer Hicklin hit 20 home runs. He hit 22 home runs, stole 44 bases. And then Chad Patrick won the Triple Crown for wins, ERA, and strikeouts in the International League. So 27 total players played for us and made an impact with the NL Central winning Brewers. So the way that the Brewers work, they have to draft well and develop well. Unfortunately, they're not going to be in the running for Juan Soto. They're a smaller market team, so they really draft, develop, and scout very well. And we kind of reap the benefits of that with strong teams. Still not working. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. So some of the highlights from the year from a community standpoint. We really try to bring everybody together. Since 2016, our staff has personally donated over 6,000 hours in the community. And it just is critical to what we do in giving back both in North Nashville and just in the greater Middle Tennessee area. One of the things we have highlighted before but wanted to highlight again for some of the new board members is we are a sensory inclusive building. Nashville is the first sensory inclusive sports town, and we work with Culture City to have quiet areas. They can get a bag that has headphones. So the typical sports experience that is music and lights and all kinds of stuff can be enjoyed by all people. And then for the 23rd year, we also hosted the Sertoma Club, which focuses on hearing loss and or communication disorders for a fantasy baseball camp with some of our players and our managers and coaches. So we have about 40 kids from ages 3 to 15. They come out here and get to live their dream of playing on our field with our professional players. despite the fact that they have hearing loss or communication disorders. One of the unique events that we brought to the ballpark this year was called Home Run Derby X. So on August 30th, we hosted a unique 3-on-3 home run derby. We had 7,000 people here. There was Manny Ramirez, Nick Swisher, and Andrew Jones, who are former MLB legends. There were 3 elite women's softball players, Jocelyn Allo, I'm going to forget some names, Amanda Lorenz, and there was one who was a last-minute addition who, I think my biggest takeaway from this entire event was that the women dominated. It was so awesome. Andrew Jones, unfortunately, left the event saying, I need to spend more time in the cage before I do this again. But the women absolutely dominated. And then another very cool part of this event was we had 3 local hitters from Nashville that tried out, that were added to these teams, and they all performed incredibly. In the championship round, one of our local hitters, who happens to be a season ticket member of the Sounds, brought his team back, and whether you believe it or not, 2.5 minutes of hitting baseballs, trying to hit him out of the ballpark, you get pretty fatigued, especially your second round. So he tagged in Jocelyn Allo, who came back and walked it off for Manny Ramirez's team. So it's a unique event, and I think that you're going to see it incorporated more into Major League Baseball and All-Star Weekend, but we were really happy to be one of 4 markets that hosted this event this year. It was very, very cool. We ended the night with the first ever drone show here at First Horizon Park, which was also quite the spectacle. Here's some pictures. Bailey Holbrook was one of the local hitters. You can see the champions down there on the bottom right. And the smoke coming up out there, that was the home run zone. And if you hit it between those 2 posts, you got double points. Always fun out here is we like to highlight some of our best giveaways each year. This year, Margaritaville continues to just be an absolutely amazing game for us. We bring out a band. We actually brought out members of Jimmy Buffett's band to be a part of the night as well. And our fans just really respond to the vibe of being at the ballpark in the summer, sipping on something ice cold. And so this hat was something that was very popular with our fans this year. For the first time ever, we also hosted a Harry Potter night. We were able to do that through a partnership between Warner Brothers and Major League Baseball. And so we actually did a ticket tandem with Sounds hats in the colors of all 4 houses. That were a big hit with our fans. It was a sellout in September, and a lot of fun. We had a traditional English feast, and really all things Harry Potter for the night, which was a big hit. We also, 3 more that I'd like to highlight. One is we always do a collaborative giveaway with Tennessee, with University of Tennessee, and this year we did a basketball jersey to honor Pat Summitt, and really had a lot of fun with that. And then Stanley mugs are very popular amongst the people. So we did a Sounds branded tumbler, and then Henry Kimbrough bobblehead. I'll talk a lot more about Henry Kimbrough in just a minute, but on June 19th and August 10th, we gave away his bobblehead, and we'll touch a little bit more on his legacy a little bit later in the presentation. This is a nice picture of our team. Shortly after we were awarded the Driving Diversity Award. This is the first ever time that this award has been given out. We were one of 120 minor league teams to win it. So incredibly proud of our entire organization. Thank you, Monica, for recognizing this in last month's meeting. But I want to talk a little bit more about how we were able to bring that home. It's awarded for creating a welcome environment for all people in an effort to support the Nashville community. And so we do that through a variety of programs that I'm going to touch on. And you guys are familiar with the 9, what we do with community engagement. And it's a Black Fan Initiative. And we do a variety of things through this initiative, both in the ballpark and in the community. And so we try to be as creative as we can. We partner with the Black Sports Business Academy, which works directly with HBCU students. So in 2023, we actually partnered with one of their students to design a batting practice shirt that our players wore on the field during the 9 weekend. This last year, we continue to work with them, mentor their students. We just had a call with them at the end of October talking about with probably 20 of their students that talked about what it's like to work in baseball, what it's like to put a promotional schedule together, working with different departments. So One of the things we did this last year as well is we worked directly with Tennessee State University to host a group of their students out here at the ballpark for a week. They actually get class credit for coming out here. They hear from all of our department heads, leadership, corporate partnerships, ticketing, creative services, operations, and leading them through what it's like to work in sports and what opportunities they could possibly have. The week finished this year with the last day of them actually shadowing us on a game day. And then on August 21st, we hosted TSU night to continue to build a relationship with their sports management classes, inviting fans of TSU to come out. And we also honored Chazen Page, who was tragically killed in a hit-and-run accident, and we wanted to honor him and his family. And there was a ticket leak made for the night that raised money for his memorial scholarship. So, again, want to make sure that we are aware of what happens in our community and really bring everybody in here, during tough times too. So Henry Kimbrough, I mentioned I'd talk a little bit more about. Henry Kimbrough was one of the best baseball players to ever come out of Nashville. He played for the Elite Giants. You can see here, we actually wore and introduced an Elite Giants jersey that we wore on the night, on the 9 weekend and during the different dates that we celebrated the 9. His daughter, Harriet Kimbrough Hamilton, local historian, she's incredible. She's a member of our steering committee for the 9. And her whole family came out here. It was just an absolute celebration of her father for all that he did for baseball in Nashville. He went on to play for the Baltimore Elite Giants when they moved up there, but really a truly great baseball player to come right out of our city. And as a part of that weekend, we were also able to honor the 1985 Fisk University championship team during their annual get-together. So it was a really special weekend for us and our largest investment from a giveaway standpoint into the 9 thus far. And we're only going to continue to keep telling those stories, making an impact there. And I can't say enough about our project with Parkwood in North Nashville, returfing those fields. That project is continuing to move forward, going through all of the appropriate permitting and all that kind of stuff so we can break ground hopefully any day. And I can't say enough about our partners in that. Habitat for Humanity brought this project to us. They are leading it. Sherry Stinson and Danny Herron with Habitat for Humanity deserve all of the credit for everything that's happening out there. And we're really blessed to be a part of it with a variety of other community partners. You can see just a little bit more about what we did around the Elite. And again, we really want to make sure that we're telling the story of the baseball players that played right here on this site, when it was Sulphur Dell. And so it is an incredibly important thing for us. And a continued effort to connect with the Hispanic community. We continue our COPA initiatives as well. The Vuelas de Nashville. We have a relationship with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Conexión Americas, Latin radio station El Jefe as well, and we continue to bring unique people out here. Lucha Libre star Warlock came out and threw out a first pitch, handing out pins, interacting with the fans. And we did that on 4 different nights, May 26th, July 24th, August 24th, and September 13th. On those games, we also have interviews in English and Spanish. We have multiple Spanish-speaking people in the stadium to translate, and really our staff continues to be engaged with those same organizations and volunteer throughout the season, from kids' days to food distribution and all that kind of stuff. We want to give back to that community and not just say, hey, we want to do this stuff so people come to the stadium. We really want to be invested in it. We had our 5th annual Pride Night. The first 1,000 fans received a Dolly Reba 24 t-shirt. We don't really play around in politics, but we figured everybody could agree with Dolly and Reba. And we also had another t-shirt that was Johnny Cash and George Jones. So we want to appeal to everybody, but we think those 4 people can agree on. And so as a part of Pride, we partner with local businesses, promote inclusion, provide information. We had ticket tandems for people with unique merchandise items, and our Pride Plaza with lots of local partners bringing people into the stadium. We also had a really unique API night. It was Asian Pacific Islander night. We worked with a local artist, Joyce Coote, to design a Nashville Sounds Year of the Dragon shirt. And so again, when we do any of these nights, we want to learn from these groups the things that are important to them and how we can incorporate it into the stadium for a total experience. We also highlighted members from the Asian Pacific Islander community throughout the night, telling their stories as to why the inclusion of API night is important for bringing fans to the stadium. Our jersey auctions this year raised over $23,000 for local nonprofits. One of the cool ones here that you see here is our mental health awareness jersey. So we did that in partnership with the Tennessee chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Wayne D, who's our on-field MC, he's also the MC for the Predators, is a strong mental health advocate. And we did a collab with him and Jelly Roll, highlighting the night, highlighting the jersey, and how we can give back to the community, which was very cool. The jersey features the new suicide hotline phone number on the sleeve, and the front has a green ribbon for mental health awareness. The back has two hands that land as if someone is giving you a hug, which is really cool. And again, I think it's just raising awareness for things that people deal with every day. We also, bring in a little bit of fun, brought out a smash car so people could smash the stigma away and raise some more money for mental health awareness. We also love honoring our military out here. We partner with MTSU. They have an incredible program and an incredible center, the Daniels Center with Charlie and Hazel Daniels, where the money goes back to them. General Keith Huber is one of the more impressive people I've ever met. With the jersey auctions, the money goes back to MTSU to support the Daniels Center, that provides veterans and students there with any resource they need as they're transitioning out of the military, or if they're active military getting their education. June 6th, we highlighted the 80th anniversary of the D-Day and recognized the Murfreesboro native, who is 99 years old, Bill Allen. One of the more emotional things I've ever experienced at the ballpark was the video we put together with him standing on the field in salute. It was pretty incredible. The other specialty jerseys we did were Margaritaville and our Harry Potter night. Margaritaville went to the Alzheimer's Association of Middle Tennessee. One of my favorite things that we continue to do is pop-up baseball, and that's where we go to elementary schools with baseball equipment. Our staff and sometimes corporate partners with us as well that go. We actually did it with the Memphis Grizzlies once this year as well, where we go, we teach baseball, and then we leave the equipment with them so they can continue to grow the game. But any impact we can make with youth is always incredibly important to the Sounds. Through our partnership with Vanderbilt Medical, we also continue to do player visits to the Children's Hospital. They have the Seacrest Studio is incredible there. If you guys have not visited it, I highly recommend you do. But 12 different Sounds players went. We went 5 different visits and just interact with the kids, play games with them, brighten their day. It's always something that we hear from players is one of the most rewarding community things that we do, and really appreciate the partnership with Vanderbilt Medical to make that happen. Through another great partnership that has a good community impact, Delta Dental is our partner out here at the stadium. And for the third consecutive year, we put on a free dental clinic to underprivileged kids who don't have access to dental care. One of the cool things about this is we actually partnered with Samaritan's Feet, which provides shoes to students as well. We had over 450 kids attend. We actually gave shoes to over 500 kids. As well as providing the dental care, and was just an incredible day and something that has grown each of the last 3 years that we're looking forward to continuing to grow to make the most community impact we can. And one of the staples of our foundation is providing scholarships to Middle Tennessee students as they pursue higher education. So we gave 4 $2,500 scholarships to Middle Tennessee students. This year, the winners were Lauren Lieberman, Kathy Fung, Alex Linville, and Amelia Croney. And so it's always one of the things we love doing, connecting with those and supporting their efforts and continuing their education. I just threw a lot at you guys, but that is a comprehensive, and I wanted to do a little bit more of a comprehensive review this year because we had some new board members and really show you guys what we do outside of the baseball stuff, because we really are so much about fan experience. And I'll just end by saying, I can't say enough good things about our staff of people here. None of this is possible without the total team. And many of these initiatives are, owned and really driven by the staff here. And I can't say enough good things about them.
So before we open up for questions, I'll say congratulations on a winning first and second half of the season and on the Diversity Award. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
And I started to list the partners and the contributions that you all are making in the community. And so I stopped because clearly you're a partner with everyone in Nashville and y'all have been doing a lot of work in the community and we're super proud of that. I do have one question.
Yeah.
The 9, what does that mean? How did you
So
get
it's
to that?
called the 9 because that's the number that Jackie Robinson wore in his only year in the minor leagues.
Wonderful. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just comment and say thank you all so much for what you're doing in the community. I really did enjoy the presentation. Great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to. I am Victoria Crawford. I'm one of the new board members that's having the privilege to see what you all are doing in the community. And I'm also the head women's basketball coach at Fisk University.
Awesome.
So before you spoke about those things that you were doing, I just want you to know in our athletic meetings, our athletic director, Valencia Jordan, highlights everything. And I have also the privilege of every single game, which is today is a game day for us. So Dr. Hamilton will be sitting behind my bench coaching.
Awesome.
So we have the privilege of being around her and listening to her experiences as she was an athletic director and also the women's basketball coach at Fisk. So thank you.
She's absolutely the best. I mean, she really is. And she's such a valuable resource for us here. And just a little bit more background on the steering committee. The steering committee is made up of about 10 to 12 leaders in Nashville because no one in our organization is arrogant enough or we want to lean on people who can direct us the best way to make an impact. We don't want to stand up and say, this is how we should do this. Like, we want people from the community to really be involved in what we do.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Great report. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
So this concludes our agenda. We are scheduled for Thursday, January 16th at Nissan Stadium. The Finance Committee will meet prior to the meeting, probably at 9:30, but that will be determined. As it says, staff will determine the time. So just want to end with saying thank you all so much to our directors, to our partners, and to all those who support this board. We appreciate all that you do, and we wish you a wonderful and safe holiday. Thank you so much.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.